So now we are all here. Now should we just start?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're gonna start with a couple of out of universe comments, more meta comments. So two things about the section of story that we're going to be entering into. One is that for what I hope are obvious reasons, between leaving Ogrehead and the conclusion of this arc, rest and resources are going to be limited, difficult. So I'm going to ask that everyone take a little extra care remembering what resources you've expended and whether or not you've regained them. If you can't remember, we've never done this before, but for this section in particular, if you can't remember if something has been used up or not, we're going to use the Grim rule, which means we take the worst possible interpretation for you as players.
To be clear, you're talking about spells and abilities and that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah. If we start a session and everyone goes, did we have a short rest before we stopped last time, and no one can remember, you did not have a short rest. I think that's unlikely to come up. I just wanted to put it out there. On the flip side, I'd like, for dramatic reasons, to put the death flag down for a little while. Consequences will still occur if you fail 3 death saves, so do still roll death saves and let me know if you fail 3, if you hit what would have been true death. But that consequence for right now will not be character death.
Yeah, it's
Very
up to,
relaxing.
it's up to you how you want to do this, but I am a fan of always keeping the death flag up for my characters. So if that works with all this, great. But if on the other side you're like, no, I don't want to, then that's totally fine. I'll let you deliberate that. You don't even have to tell me.
That is the question I expected. I am comfortable with any individual choosing to let 3 death saves mean real death. You can do that ahead of time, or you could decide in the moment you reach it. So either of those is fine.
Cool.
Wait, so that means if you do get 3 bad death saves, you can say you don't want to die?
Right, but I will come up with some other horrible consequence for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
of course.
It will still be a bad thing.
Consequences will play out at the table.
Tracy, I have a request because of what's been decided about bubbles. At some point during the session, could you make a token for bubbles? And I will ask you to place bubbles at the start of every combat.
I can do this.
Perfect.
What happens? Bubbles is your steed, right?
Yes.
What happens if Bubbles dies?
I think she just poofs back to the celestial realm, and I can resummon her.
Including everything she's carrying? Again, just asking ahead of time in case this matters.
That's actually a really good question.
My assumption is not.
I'm not sure that D&D prepared to answer the question, what happens if my magic water buffalo poofs to the celestial plane along with Black Razor?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really talk about this with familiars either. I don't think.
I guess this is mostly.
I don't think there are rules for like what happens if your familiar is wearing an expensive silk and jewel encrusted jacket. Like
so rules as written. If something affects the items you carry or wear, they generally say it explicitly. The rules for the paladin steed do not mention them, so I assume that they are not affected.
So whatever it's carrying is just dropped.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing that it explicitly says is that when it drops to 0 hit points, it disappears, leaving behind no physical form. So yeah. I'm imagining the Jedi, Obi-Wan leaving his robes behind.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you can cast the spell again to resummon.
Gotcha.
All right. Are there any other out-of-world meta questions before we dive back into the universe and into character?